I am Slick Nick, your personal certified Enneagram coach. I love this book. This is my favorite book about Enneagram. The Enneagram Made Easy. You can check the link right there. It takes you to Amazon. I think you can get it for like 15 bucks. It's awesome. And that's largely my guide as I make these videos, but I am a certified Enneagram coach. This is the final video of this little series I'm doing where we're looking at the basic fear of each of the 9 Enneagrams as an outsider, thinking, why would you care about that? And we're going to look through this from a logical perspective to help that number think a little bit more like the rest of us and to not be so guided by that fear, because that fear shouldn't hold so much power over us. So let's look at a 9. I know 9s very well because I've been married to one for 13 and a half years. My wife is a 9. My dad is a 9. My brother-in-law is a 9. I'm surrounded by 9s, and I guess I kind of have to be, but as my wife says, she's like, you need someone to balance you out because you're so high strung. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And with her being a 9 who kind of goes along with everything, she is attracted to someone who has passion, who has vision, who is decisive. That's attracted to her. And I guess I'm attracted to someone who thinks that I'm interesting because I have a plan. Let's do this. Yeah, great. So yeah, 9's the ultimate middle child of all the Enneagrams. And it just so happens that I've learned that so many Enneagram 9s actually were the middle children of their family. My wife, she actually has 9 siblings. So imagine, yeah, you have to kind of learn to go with the flow. 9s avoid conflict. That's their fear. They fear conflict. Now, I don't fear conflict, but I avoid it. And I think a lot of us do. A lot of us avoid conflict. Some of us take it head on, but some of us avoid it. But a 9 specifically will fear conflict. Now, from a logical perspective, for the rest of us who are not 9s, why does that seem kind of silly? Well, because life is full of conflict. That's a lot of what life is. So you're not going to be able to always avoid it. Sometimes you do have to face it. Sometimes you do have to stand up for yourself. Sometimes you have to be able to say no. Sometimes you actually have to create conflict by helping someone make the right decision for them. That's part of it. Sometimes you create the conflict by doing the right thing, right? That's part of it. But we have to look at each Enneagram. What's their growth personality? What's the best version of a 9? And that would be a 3. The person who is the achiever, ultimately because they fear failure. But the best version of a 9 is one who is more of an achiever. So what would that look like if a 9 becomes more of a 3? They would become more energetic, efficient, and productive. They would narrow their focus. They would acquire more self-confidence and live less through others and take more of control of their own lives. I think one of the main things is this whole thing about narrowing their focus. Imagine if you grew up with this coping mechanism as a middle child or as a number 9, where you learn, as long as I just go along with what everyone else is doing, then life is easier. Not only do I have to avoid conflict, but I'm okay with other people making decisions for me. That's cool. But if that's your basic mode of thinking, then it does by default become harder to make your own decisions. And that actually can hold you back. And that can actually, ironically, create more conflict if you're not as decisive and speaking more on doing things that you actually want to do yourself. That can actually create conflict. And you can imagine, what if 2 number 9s were married to each other, which arguably that's The Simpsons. Arguably that's Homer, a 9-wing 8, and Marge, a 9-wing 1. But I can imagine if 2 9s were married to each other, it may create conflict because there's not enough decisions being made. There's not enough aggressiveness, perhaps. So you can imagine how that would work. So yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Ultimately, 9s, to face their fear of avoiding conflict, is to ultimately become more energetic and focused specifically on what they actually want. So therefore, sometimes lack of making a decision creates conflict. I think that's pretty interesting. Okay, well, this little series is done. Me wearing this shirt from Hatcher Farms. That's a show on Disney. It's right down the road from a Discovery Channel, actually, but you can watch it on Disney. There you go. We're all done. You can leave your comments right here. I love talking about Enneagram. I wonder what we're going to talk about next. Your comments belong right here.